Hello and welcome to episode number 11 of the series dedicated to medieval Asia. In this ongoing series, we're exploring the complexities of this era, and today we'll be focusing on a particularly captivating event, the Gihae Invasion of 1419, a Joseon Korean military expedition against Tsushima Island. Our deep dive today is based on academic excerpts that shed light on the historical backdrop, the motivations of both sides, and the invasion's enduring impact on the relationship between Korea and Japan.
To fully grasp the significance of the Ōei Invasion, it's crucial to understand the intricate relationship between Joseon Korea and Japan during the 14th and 15th centuries. Tsushima Island, strategically located in the Tsushima Strait between the Korean Peninsula and Japan's Kyushu Island, played a pivotal role in this complex dynamic.
Tsushima's strategic location made it a focal point for both economic exchange and political tension. It heavily relied on trade with Korea, yet simultaneously served as a base for Wokou pirates who preyed on Korean shipping lanes and coastal communities. This duality created a precarious balance that would ultimately contribute to the outbreak of the Ōei Invasion.
Adding to this volatile situation, Japan was grappling with significant internal political instability during this period. This hindered the central authorities' ability to effectively address the issue of Wokou piracy, further escalating tensions with Joseon Korea.
Our sources reveal a stark reality. Wokou pirate attacks on the Korean peninsula were not isolated incidents, but a persistent and growing threat in the late 14th and early 15th centuries. These raids had a devastating impact on Joseon's coastal regions, disrupting trade and even posing a threat to the Joseon capital itself.
The Joseon government, deeply concerned by the escalating frequency and severity of these attacks, made numerous attempts to resolve the Wokou issue through diplomatic channels, reaching out to the Ashikaga shogunate in Japan. However, these efforts ultimately proved futile, leaving the Joseon court feeling increasingly vulnerable and frustrated.
Several critical events in 1419 ultimately pushed the Joseon government toward a military solution. Among these was the capture of Korean ships by Japanese forces. Furthermore, a group of Wokou pirates, en route to raid Ming Dynasty China, brazenly refused Joseon's demands for food supplies.
These actions were perceived by the Joseon court as direct affronts to their authority, and stark evidence that the Wokou problem was spiraling out of control. King Taejong, though he had abdicated the throne in 1418, remained a powerful figure in Joseon's military affairs, and advocated for a more aggressive stance against the perceived threat emanating from Tsushima. This set the stage for a direct military confrontation.
On June 9, 1419, King Taejong formally declared war on Tsushima, justifying the invasion by asserting Joseon's historical claim to the island. To demonstrate the seriousness of their intent, a Joseon court assembled a formidable force for this expedition.
Historical records indicate that the Joseon invasion force consisted of a fleet of 227 ships carrying over 17,000 soldiers, a testament to their commitment to addressing what they saw as a growing threat to their security and stability.
This impressive fleet, under the command of the skilled military leader Yi Jong-mu, departed from Joseon Island on June 19, 1419. They landed in Ōei on Tsushima just one day later, signaling the commencement of the Ōei Invasion.
Interestingly, upon landing, Yi Jong-mu initially attempted to engage in diplomacy, sending captured Japanese pirates as emissaries to call for the island's surrender. This suggests an element of restraint and a preference for a peaceful resolution if possible.
However, these attempts at peaceful negotiation were met with silence from the Tsushima authorities, forcing Yi Jong-mu and the Joseon forces to shift their strategy.
With diplomacy failing, the Joseon forces initiated their campaign, targeting pirate settlements across the island and engaging in skirmishes with local defenders. Accounts of the invasion's intensity and the casualties inflicted vary depending on the source, reflecting the inherent biases found in historical narratives.
Korean sources, such as the veritable records of the Joseon Dynasty, claim that the Joseon forces captured a significant number of Wokou ships, destroyed numerous dwellings, and killed over 100 individuals. They also highlight the rescue of several Chinese captives who had been held by the Wokou.
In contrast, Japanese sources, such as the Kanman Nikki, a diary penned by a Japanese prince, paint a different picture. These accounts emphasize the fierce resistance mounted by the Tsushima defenders and suggest that the Joseon forces suffered heavy casualties.
Another Japanese source, their Taishu Kronen Raku, even goes so far as to claim that the Joseon army suffered thousands of casualties. These discrepancies underscore the importance of critically evaluating sources and acknowledging the existence of multiple perspectives when studying historical events.
It is essential to remember that historical narratives are often shaped by cultural biases, political agendas, and the passage of time. Evaluating these different perspectives allows for a more nuanced and comprehensive understanding of the past. Despite these contrasting narratives, one point remains clear. The Joseon invasion of Tsushima was a relatively short-lived affair. After a few weeks of raids and skirmishes, the Korean army withdrew from the island on July 3, 1419, returning to Gihae Island.
Although the invasion itself was brief, it had significant long-term consequences for the relationship between Joseon and Tsushima. The immediate aftermath saw a period of negotiations between the two sides, culminating in the Treaty of Gihae in 1443.
The Treaty of Gihae, signed more than 2 decades after the Ōei Invasion, aimed to establish a more stable and peaceful relationship between Joseon Korea and Tsushima. It was a pivotal moment, marking a shift in the dynamics between the two entities.
One of the key provisions of the treaty was a limitation on the number of Japanese trading ships permitted to enter Joseon ports annually. Only 50 ships were granted this privilege, a measure intended to control the activities of Wokou pirates who had posed a significant threat to the region for many years.
This limitation on trade was a significant concession from the Japanese side. It demonstrates the seriousness with which they took the need to address Joseon's concerns about Wokou activity. The treaty effectively formalized trading relations, while aiming to regulate the flow of people and goods between the two nations.
The treaty also granted the Tsu clan, the ruling family of Tsushima, a monopoly on trade with Korea. This provision gave them considerable economic power and incentivized them to maintain order and prevent future Wokou raids.
Granting the Tsu clan a trade monopoly was a strategic move by the Joseon government. It recognized the influence of the Tsu clan in Tsushima and leveraged their authority to ensure stability in the region. It essentially made them responsible for policing the activities of their own people.
While the Treaty of Gihae did lead to a reduction in Wokou activity for a time, it did not completely eliminate tensions or the potential for conflict. Our sources document the disturbance of the 3 ports, which took place in 1510.
The disturbance of the 3 ports involved Japanese traders who were dissatisfied with stricter trade policies implemented by the Joseon government. This uprising demonstrates that despite the treaty, some underlying issues persisted and could still flare up into open conflict.
The treaty was not a perfect solution, and it ultimately did not last indefinitely. However, it did mark a significant shift in the relationship between Korea and Tsushima.
Before the invasion, relations were characterized by distrust, hostility, and frequent outbreaks of violence. After the treaty, while challenges remained, there was a noticeable improvement in the overall dynamics.
Trade relations expanded, and there were even instances of remarkable hospitality extended by the residents of Tsushima towards shipwrecked Korean sailors who found themselves on the island.
These acts of kindness recorded in historical accounts reveal the complex and often surprising nature of human interactions. Even within the context of past conflicts and tensions, they serve as a reminder that diplomacy and cooperation are possible even between former adversaries.
As we delve deeper into the Ōei Invasion, it is crucial to acknowledge the differing perspectives presented in the Korean and Japanese sources. Historical accounts are rarely completely objective, as they are shaped by cultural biases, political motivations, and the passage of time.
Understanding these differing perspectives is essential for obtaining a comprehensive understanding of the event. Korean sources often emphasize the justification for the invasion, highlighting the devastating impact of the Wokou raids and the failure of diplomatic efforts to address the issue.
These Korean sources portray the Ōei Invasion as a necessary and decisive action taken to protect Joseon's interests and restore order to the region. They present it as a legitimate response to a persistent threat to their security and well-being.
Japanese sources, on the other hand, often portray the invasion as an unprovoked act of aggression. They emphasize the strength and determination of the Tsushima defenders, and often downplay the severity of the Wokou problem, framing it as a minor issue rather than a serious threat to Joseon.
These contrasting narratives, while potentially challenging to reconcile, offer valuable insights into the perspectives and motivations of both sides. Recognizing and exploring these different interpretations enrich our understanding of the complexities of this historical event.
The existence of these varied interpretations highlights the importance of critical thinking and careful analysis when studying historical events. It is not about determining who was right or wrong, but rather about understanding the motivations, perceptions, and actions of all those involved.
This leads us to a fundamental question that lies at the heart of our deep dive today. How did this specific historical event, the Ōei Invasion, contribute to the relationship between Korea and Japan today?
It's tempting to draw a direct line from the past to the present, to view the Ōei Invasion as a singular event that definitively shaped the trajectory of Korean-Japanese relations. However, History is really that straightforward.
The legacy of the Ōei invasion is multifaceted and complex. It cannot be reduced to a simple cause and effect relationship. It is essential to consider the long-term and often indirect ways in which this event has resonated through history.
On one hand, the Ōei invasion serves as a reminder of a period of conflict and tension, a historical wound that has not fully healed. The memory of the invasion, particularly in Japan, has at times been used to fuel nationalist sentiment and resentment towards Korea.
On the other hand, the Ōei invasion also indirectly led to the establishment of a more structured and peaceful trading relationship between the two countries. The Treaty of Gihae, while imperfect and ultimately short-lived, provided a framework for economic and cultural exchange that had a lasting impact.
It's important to remember that history is not simply a collection of dates and events. It's a living, evolving narrative that continues to shape our understanding of the world and our place within it. The Ōei invasion, like all historical events, should not be viewed in isolation.
It is part of a larger tapestry of human interaction, a complex web of cause and effect that extends from the distant past to the present day. Understanding the Ōei invasion requires us to consider its long-term consequences, both positive and negative.
It challenges us to think critically about how the past continues to shape the present, and to recognize the intricate ways in which historical events can resonate through time. This deep dive into the Ōei invasion has hopefully provided you with a deeper understanding of this complex and significant event.
We've explored the historical context, the motivations of both Korea and Japan, and the invasion's lasting impact on the relationship between these two nations. We've also delved into the differing perspectives presented in Korean and Japanese sources, highlighting the importance of considering multiple viewpoints when studying history.
As we conclude this part of our deep dive, we encourage you to reflect on the following questions. How has the memory of the Ōei invasion been preserved and reinterpreted over time? And how have cultural perceptions and historical narratives shaped the way this event is understood in both Korea and Japan today? These questions about the Ōei invasion's legacy are complex and multifaceted. They encourage us to consider how historical events continue to shape contemporary understanding and relationships. There are no simple answers or singular interpretations.
Exploring these questions requires us to acknowledge the subjective nature of historical narratives and to embrace the diversity of perspectives. It is through this process of critical inquiry and examination that we can gain a more nuanced and informed understanding of the past.
The Ōei invasion serves as a powerful reminder that history is not merely a static collection of facts and dates, but an ongoing dialogue between the past and the present. The ways in which we remember, interpret, and learn from historical events, like the Ōei invasion, continue to shape our understanding of the world around us.
The invasion represents a pivotal moment in the complex and often turbulent relationship between Korea and Japan. Its legacy continues to influence the dynamics between these two nations in subtle and profound ways.
As we conclude our deep dive into the Ōei invasion, we encourage you, our listeners, to continue exploring this fascinating period of history. We've only scratched the surface of this complex event, and there is much more to uncover and analyze.
We invite you to delve deeper into the sources, consider multiple perspectives, and draw your own conclusions about the significance and lasting impact of the Ōei invasion. We hope this exploration has been informative and thought-provoking.
We appreciate you joining us on this journey through history. We encourage you to share your thoughts and insights on this episode, and to follow us for more deep dives into captivating historical events.